You already know there's no real money sitting in your bank account. It might sound strange, I get it, but this isn't fake, and it's definitely not just theory. It's real. If everyone tried to withdraw their money from the bank today, the entire system would collapse because the money simply isn't there. And here's the most interesting part. This isn't a mistake. This is the intended design of the modern financial system, a very old illusion that's been running for centuries. Its name, fractional reserve banking. To understand how this story began, we need to step into the dusty shelves of the past. Back then, there were no apps, no digital balances, no virtual dollars. Money was gold and silver. If you were wealthy, you kept your gold under your pillow. But gold had a problem. It wasn't safe to carry. So people started storing their gold with jewelers who had secure vaults. In return, the jeweler gave them a receipt. Bring this note back and you can reclaim your gold. But then something interesting happened. These paper notes began to be treated as valuable as the gold itself. People started using the notes instead of carrying the heavy metal around. And that's exactly where the trick began. Jewelers noticed something. No one came to claim their gold on the same day they deposited it. If 100 people stored their gold, maybe only one person showed up daily. The other 99 deposits just sat there. So they said, well then, if all this gold is just sitting here untouched, why not issue more receipts than the gold we actually have? They had 1,000 coins in the vault, but wrote 2,000 receipts. And they lent out those extra receipts with interest. They started making money from gold that didn't exist, and no one noticed. The receipts circulated everywhere like real gold. That small illusion became the foundation of modern banking. Even governments said, "This is genius." When wars needed funding and money ran out, they borrowed this non-existent money from banks and then paid it back using taxpayers' money. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Fast forward to today. You walk into a bank and deposit $100. You think that $100 stays in your account? Of course not. The bank only keeps a tiny fraction of it. The rest is loaned out. That loan is deposited somewhere else, gets reloaned, and again. Before you know it, your single $100 becomes nearly $1,000 circulating in the system. And the real part? Only the original $10 actually exists. Everything else is dead. But it gets even crazier. In the United States, banks are no longer required to hold any minimum reserves. The required reserve ratio is literally 0. Then why don't banks create unlimited loans? Because the limit now isn't reserves. It's something called capital and liquidity regulations. Those rules, known as Basel standards, are written in Switzerland by a small group of people. Not elected officials, not governments. Just a closed group that directs the brain of global banking. Here's the truth of the modern system. Banks don't lend out existing money. They create new money the moment you take a loan. Over 90% of all the money circulating today is created this way. It's not backed by gold, not backed by anything physical. It's simply a promise. This design guarantees 3 things. Inflation, because money supply keeps increasing. Endless debt, because the system requires borrowing to create money. Power concentration, because banks earn interest on money that doesn't even exist. Remember the 2008 crisis? It was the system experiencing a reality shock. When the promises fell apart, the entire structure collapsed. Governments stepped in and printed trillions to keep the illusion alive. And today, the same system still surrounds the world. Reserve rules differ by country, but the Basel framework stands above everything. The truth is simple. The power to create money isn't in the hands of the people. It lies with banks and central banks. Here's the part they never tell you. The system cannot function if you avoid taking on debt. Because when you repay your loan, the money supply shrinks. If everyone became debt-free, the economy would grind to a halt. That's why the system needs you to stay in debt. Real wealth, then, must come from something else. Real wealth is land, skills, knowledge, and the ability to produce. Things that remain even if the economy burns to the ground. Money is temporary. Debt is permanent. And the system is fragile. But knowing the truth is freedom. Once you learn this story, you see the financial world through a completely different lens. Because now you understand the illusion. And once you recognize an illusion, you begin to move differently. If this opened your eyes, the rest of the story is worth exploring. History is full of answers. You just need to look from the right angle.